The Bobcats win this game 43-38, and we had 4 safeties.
That's all.
That's the only stat.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Thank you. See you next week. Manhattan Bank has been serving the Gallatin Valley since 1905. Started by local farmers in order to help grow the agriculture industry, Manhattan Bank has since grown into a full-service bank serving the entire valley. With branches in Manhattan, Churchill, Three Forks, and Bozeman, you're never far from your local bank.
As banks are consolidating and changing, Manhattan Bank sets themselves apart through consistency and a small-town banking feel. Come see why we have been in the Valley for well over 100 years. Stop by the new building in Bozeman, see Justin Skillman and Tyler Dosher for your business banking, and Brad Whitmer for your home loans. Go Cats.
Member FDIC.
Welcome, everybody, to the R&R Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're 2 dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy it. All right, welcome back, Bobcat fans. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the R&R Catcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Foley. He's your host, Ryan Thornburg. We are the Ryans of the R&R, the Montana State affiliate of the Big Sky Podcast Network. We are a podcast for the fans, by the fans, and we have a dang sponsor in our dang bank, Manhattan Bank. That's right. Manhattan Bank, taking care of all your banking needs in the Gallatin County. You got 4 locations, Bozeman, Churchill, Manhattan, and Three Forks. Justin and company came on board this year, and we are just stoked to be partnered with them. They're a great bank in the Gallatin County. They are take care of all your banking needs. Thorny, we are here to coast into the bye week. First of, I don't know how many episodes we'll put out this bye week, but we will chat about all Bobcat football stuff for a couple weeks here coming up. But how you doing, buddy?
Foley, man, I'm doing great. I had a interesting weekend on the family property on the San Juan Islands, doing some farm work, including doing something not fun to some calves, some bull calves that was not very enjoyable. I got to wrestle some cattle, we'll just say, I guess. It was a pretty interesting weekend, man. How was your weekend?
Did you commit the act?
Yes, I did.
How does that feel?
It was, it was mixed emotions for sure. Felt bad about what we had to do, but it's an experience, man. There was some bruises, there was some fighting. Yeah, it was very interesting. Never done it before. I don't think anyone in our family is like, we're not a whole bunch of seasoned ranch hands. We have our own method to do it, probably different than anyone else would be doing it at a place where people are used to doing it, but we got it done. And we'll just leave it at that.
Do the calves get any kind of sedation or any kind of numbing agent, or is it just straight up, just go for it?
Well, I don't know how much we want to get into the weeds on the podcast here. We use the band, like the rubber band method. There's no sedation.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we got plenty of people listening in Montana who know exactly what I'm talking about and probably think I sound like an idiot because it was my first time. We figured it out. We got it done. It was very interesting.
Okay. Well, without, I have more questions, but without.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Bobcat.
Let's save the people who listening to this who don't want to hear anything about this.
Yeah, a deep dive on castration right now might not be the thing you want to listen to. You might come to the Bobcat podcast for Bobcat news. Okay, whatever. Moving on. I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. I think I'm doing okay. Now I'm really sidetracked in my brain because of all this. Anyways,
my bad.
Yeah, I think it was a great weekend. My son, highlight for my weekend. My son went to a all city track meet and he took 17th out of like 87 kids in 3rd grade for cross country. I was really stoked for him. Good job, Miles, man.
Good job, buddy.
There you go, buddy. Yeah, so pretty stoked on that. I was excited to see the Bobcats win. I didn't get to watch the Bobcats, to be truthfully honest. I watched them in replay, but I was like I said, I was at my son's track meet, and then we had a family. My sister was in town, and so we went out to eat at good old McKinsey River. That's a Bozeman establishment right there, but we have one in Spokane as well. And so I was getting all the text updates from our good listeners, our good buddies out there. But man, yeah, it was wild. And because it was like their texts would be like, "Oh my gosh, another safety." I was like, "What? What is going
Wait,
on?"
how can there be that
And
many
then,
safeties?
yeah, another one. So it was pretty wild because it was like a swing of emotions, and then it was just like, "Oh my gosh, can we hold on at the end?" It was a typical Bobcat like thriller, but I don't think it was a typical Bobcat game.
No, but not a typical game that I've ever seen before. It was one of the strangest games I've ever seen, and I didn't get to really watch a whole lot of it either. I was on the ferry out to the island, so I got spotty reception. I was streaming it here and there. I ended up like listening to it as I was helping build like a feeding station for the cattle. It was a, I got to, that instant reaction show we did where I was like upstairs in the farmhouse and audio quality sucked and neither of us had watched the entire game was pretty interesting conversation, I think. But, we had a lot of people asking us for the show, so we put it out there. But now that we both had a chance to watch the show, I'm excited to actually watch the game, and we'll talk a lot about that. And that's the only thing we got to talk about because it's the bye week coming in.
That instant reaction show was funny. I had my old like coach headset on with the little puffy microphone in front of me. You could hear all the bad lip smacking and
Like it's right up against your mouth. I know
deep breaths.
I know exactly the mic you're talking about because those were what we used for a few episodes in our first season. And yeah, that thing it's a decent microphone, but if put too close to your face, it's gonna pick up everything coming out of your mouth. And whereas I sounded like I was like underwater, I don't know exactly what was going on with my sound, real muffled, just muted thing, but whatever. It was fun. It was still fun to do.
Absolutely. It's fun to talk about Bobcat football, especially after a win. I mean, hey, let's just put this out right there. Montana State 7-1, man. We are 7-1 with our only loss to FBS Oregon. Did you have us penciled in at 7-1 after Weber going into the bye?
No, I had us at 6-2.
Yeah.
I had us dropping Eastern and beating Weber.
Okay, that's interesting. So I had us with a loss at Oregon State, but I also had us a loss at Weber. So I had us at 6-2 as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course I had us losing to Oregon State as well. But yeah, I had us beating Weber, but we won both those games. So just the one loss to Oregon State, pretty fantastic year so far.
Yeah. It has been. And one thing that's kind of come out to me is Montana State hasn't felt like they've played a really good game quite yet. We've played good in facets. I think the most complete game we've played was UC Davis.
Yeah.
But to put it all together, I don't feel like we've hit our stride quite yet.
No, there's still lots of room for improvement. And that's what's so exciting. And maybe that's what we kind of spend the bye week talking about, that kind of thing. I think it'd be an interesting conversation to have for the bye week.
All right. Well, we forgot to do our preview. So first time listeners, thanks for joining us. If you want to know something about us, it's something we talked about last week. We're just two fans from the state of Washington. Ryan and I both went to Montana State around the early 2000s. And this is a passion project for us, and we love talking Montana State. So thanks for listening. What we like to do on these episodes is break down the game that just happened and then preview the game that's coming up. But we won't have a preview this week because it's a bye week, which is good for us. So we'll be able to dive into some more content next week. We'll probably break down some like places where we can improve. We'll do some probably self-scouting kind of things, maybe dive into some fan stuff. To be determined quite yet. But today we won't have a preview, and there was no press conference, so we won't be able to talk about Coach Vigen's reactions to the game. So really today is all about just breaking down Weber State. And we'll get into the polls and how we voted in the Big Sky Power rankings poll that we attend to each week. But that's really it. We got some Golden Coolie questions, some really good Golden Coolie questions from our listeners and fan submitted ones on Bobcat Nation and on Twitter. So we'll splash those in. But I think that's all we got.
I think that's it. I mean, there's plenty to talk about this football game. Holy cow. So, I mean, what else do we even need? We don't need more things to talk about.
Good point. But let's get into the very first thing we do, a recurring segment since first year, 4 years ago. We talk about what's in our Golden Coolie.
Since I first poured myself like a scotch or something and had it on ice as I clanked it around in my glass all over the microphone. Come a long way, my friend.
What's in your Golden Coolie?
From clanking glasses to jingles that we make to sound sort of professional. I am drinking a Deschutes Twilight. I think I had it for the very first episode this season. I still have a couple left. It's a pretty decent tasting IPA. 38 IBUs, which is about my max. 30s is about as high as I like to go. Yeah, it's pretty good. And it just felt like an appropriate beer for this occasion. Or, the bye week after a good win, kind of sit back and just enjoy the moment.
It is kind of interesting to me that sometimes you do dabble in the IPAs. I mean,
dabble.
Over the 4 years we've done this, you've been anti-IPA, but you more lately, I see you picking up a 6-pack here and there.
I do. What have I become fully?
A Washingtonian? I don't know.
I guess.
A common beer drinker in the West?
It's still like one out of every 20 beers I drink probably is a still very small.
All right. I have one of my favorites. It's a classic. It's one of the classic craft beers. I do remember this beer when I was working at the Meadowlark Country Club in Great Falls, Montana in high school. It was one of the beers on tap behind the bar. Red Hook ESB. This comes out of your neck of the woods. I think it's in Seattle. Yeah, it's Seattle. They're calling it Seattle. I think it's at more Kirkland, if you know the area. Anyways, the ESB Extra Special Bitter, 100% barley malt, top fermented. It's a multi hoppy kind of collaboration. I love it. It's a classic beer.
Too bitter.
It's been around forever.
It has.
No, it's not.
It has.
Perfect.
It is one of those original microbrews that kind of before the whole scene exploded. You're right on that.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, I do have a backup as my Ultra, so there we go, Michelob Ultra. From an IPA, full-bodied IPA to the most tasteless beer on the market.
Just hope it's not an 8-ounce can.
Nope. It's just a regular. That's good news.
All right. Well, let's get into the FCS stats football rankings. I didn't call it the stats today, so there you go.
No confusing the
More
listeners.
Appropriate way of introducing that segment right there. All right. South Dakota State remains number 1. Sac State remains number 2. And Montana State comes in at 3rd. They were 3rd last week as well. And I need to minimize a little window so I can see a little bit better. All right. North Dakota State's number 4. Who thought we'd be saying North Dakota State as number 4?
Behind us.
I mean,
2 losses for the Bison already this year, which is pretty absurd. I know one was an FBS loss, but they don't even lose those usually.
Yeah, it's a good point. Weber State's tied with 5th with Holy Cross, and to be honest with you, I know nothing about Holy Cross. They're 7-0, but
it makes you want to sing Holy Diaper.
Weber, I think Weber was 5th last week.
Yeah, top 5 is this exact same, except there's a tie for 5th now.
Chattanooga, number 7. You were bantering on how they're like the number 10 team all the time.
They finally won a big enough game to jump. They beat Mercer pretty badly.
Yeah, Mercer's been trending good. Notably, Montana went down to 11. They were sitting at 7 last week, and they lost to Sac State. Stingers up.
Stingers up.
Stingers up. Idaho's number 14. Let's see who's getting any votes. Mercer's down to 16. North Dakota. Who cares about those guys anymore? They're not in the Big Sky. Let's see.
It had a good game with South Dakota State, I guess, but
yeah,
didn't win.
And the Alaris Center is just a weird place to play. That thing looks just weird. Like they're really good. It's a hockey stadium. That's what it is. They're really good at hockey. So
yeah, they are.
There's not a lot of other schools receiving votes. I was assuming UC Davis. I would see Davis up here getting some votes. That's why I was kind of scrolling down.
They will be, I imagine, after this next week.
Yeah. Davis has an interesting path. They have a doable path, but they have to beat.
Idaho and Sac.
Yeah, that's right. So they play Idaho and they play Sac. Sac most notably at the last game of the season in the Causeway Classic. But UC Davis, keep your eye out for UC Davis. They're going to be ones that started slow but could end on a rocket, and they are catching steam right now. If you pay attention to them in the Big Sky standings, they've been playing really well lately. So they have, let's see here. They have Northern Colorado, Cal Poly, Idaho State, Idaho, and Sac State. They can start carrying the momentum they've been building. Those last 2 weeks, they could sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, they're going to be 5-4 heading into that last two games. If they can win out 7-4 with a win over Idaho and Sac, I mean, they have a pretty strong case for the playoffs.
Yeah,
and most notably, they would hand those teams their first loss, and we'd be outright champs if we went out. So we should all be Aggie fans. Sorry if I stole your bit.
No, you didn't steal my bit. I've been just trying to interject here. I think we should maybe next week during the bye week talk about some playoff scenarios.
That'd be fun.
Especially after this week, because there's some big games. Sac plays Weber. No, excuse me. Montana plays Weber and Sac plays Idaho this week.
Oh.
Those are consequential games for Big Sky Conference titles, for one. And then you can get a better picture of how many of the teams the Big Sky might get into the playoffs. There is a conceivable way where there might be 6 teams from the Big Sky. I think maybe that's an outside chance, but the Missouri Valley Conference is having a little bit of a down year.
Yes, they are.
I think we get 5. I still think we get 5.
I mean, 6 teams are crazy.
Conceivably, we only get 4 too.
Yeah. Well, there's precedence. I think the Colonial got 6 teams in a couple years ago, so it has been done, but it's only been done once, maybe. That might be the only time. But yeah, it's gonna be fun this weekend, man. You can just sit back, feeling real good about where the Bobcats are coming off the big win on the bye week. You can just sit back with a bucket of popcorn and watch some high-profile Big Sky teams without a care in the world. I don't care who wins this game, because that was a very stressful, crazy game we just watched. So now you can just sit there and just relax and watch some other football. It's a pretty good feeling.
Absolutely. I'm still rooting for the Grizzlies to go down. I'm probably going to root for Sac State to beat Idaho. I don't know, man. I'm not ready for the Tubs and the Clubs guys to be all up, beating their chest right now. I'm like, I don't know if I want that. Hey, do you remember? So this reminds me today. I was back in 2002, I believe it was, when Lule took us and we won a share of the conference championship. Do you remember that?
Well, yeah, it was the year the streak ended.
Yeah, that feels a little bit to me like what Idaho's going through right now. They got themselves a quarterback, a resurgence in the program. They feel validated once again. They could get a share. They could ride a hot streak and get a share.
Yeah, it could be something like that, except they didn't have to go through the 0-11 season with their new coach.
No, that's a good point.
They skipped that right point to the good stuff. Nicely done. Yeah, Jason X got it rolling down there, the former Bobcat coach for one season or something like that. But
yeah, under Rob Ash.
Yeah, got it going. I'm impressed with the turnaround. It's pretty hard as a first-time head coach to come out and just blow the doors off like that, but kudos.
He's got that riverboat mentality, man. He's kind of a vibrant personality. It doesn't surprise me. I knew when they hired him that was a good hire.
I don't remember him being anything like that at Montana State, but I mean, he was the offensive line coach. You don't really get to see those guys all that much on the media or anything to get to really know their personalities. So why would I know what his personality was?
It wasn't like Idaho was, barren of talent. Their
No.
cupboards were pretty stocked. They just weren't galvanized. They were just so sloppy and disorganized, and they always seemed like they were about to mutiny against their own coach. And now they got a guy who's just riding the ship over there, who's galvanizing all those players. Doesn't surprise me one bit that Idaho has success right now.
No, we'll see if he's the Bruce Barnum of like 2016 or whatever, when the Vikings went 9-2 all of a sudden, when Bruce Barnum was named the interim head coach and just rode the lightning, and then clearly has not carried that momentum. So we'll see what happens in the future. But what a fun year for the Vandals fans. I'm excited for those guys to finally have something to cheer about, because I think it's good for the conference if Idaho's good.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good statement right there. All right. Well, so nothing changed in the FCS stats football rankings. Let's move into the stats of the game against Weber. We don't have a press conference, so we can move right into that segment.
Do we want to talk about the Big Sky Podcast Network power polls? We can go through it quickly. I don't think there's a whole lot to, I mean, there's some big things to talk about.
I thought I had it, man.
There's some,
I was like, in my brain, I was like, we're ready to go.
Ready. Yeah, I know. I mean, we're already like 20 minutes in. We haven't even talked anything about the Bobcats yet. We can just plow through this real quick. There's some argument among the podcasters basically on like 8 through 12. Like who cares, right? It doesn't matter.
Just put Northern Arizona at the bottom.
No, you mean Northern Colorado or Northern Arizona?
No, I hate Northern Arizona.
That's right.
Screw those Lumberjacks.
Well, there you go. So we actually had a tie for first in this power poll here between Montana State and Sac State. Then Idaho came at 3. Weber State at 4. Montana falls down to 5. And you got UC Davis. And then it's Eastern, NAU, Portland State, Cal Poly, UNC, and Idaho State. What's your top 6 fully? Because I think anything after 6 doesn't matter at all.
I'll give you my top 7.
Okay.
How about that?
Fine.
I did put Sac first. I did vote Montana State second. And then I kept Weber at 3rd. I put Idaho 4th, Montana 5th, UC Davis 6th. And then there's no way Eastern Washington's above Portland State in this. I put Portland State and then Eastern Washington.
Do you think Eastern Washington's going to lose to Portland State this Saturday? Is that what you're saying?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think Eastern's very good right now, man.
What, did they win 17-10 against Cal Poly? That's pretty miserable.
Oh.
They won, but 17-10? Are you kidding me?
Let's make an argument for Eastern real quick. When they played us, I thought Eastern was still good. And I think they thought they were still good. I think they've just been beaten down and just like they're just trying to get through this season at this point.
Yeah, kind of throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
I can't say I haven't watched a single second of Eastern Washington since we've played them, I don't think.
Their defense is terrible.
It's bad.
I was doing some conference conference, just looking at conference. I can't speak right now. I was looking at conference
Keep saying the word
rankings
conference
today.
though.
That's the word I was looking for. Nailed that word, right? They're last in defense, like like a lot of statistical categories in defense. You just don't care. They don't
like
want
the
to play defense.
2015 Bobcats, but without the offense.
Oh, that's a good analogy right there. That's good. They got like legit receivers, but that's about it.
Yeah,
Gunnar Talkington, he's okay.
It's okay.
He's okay.
This is probably the first time that I can remember. I would very honestly say I would pick both of the Bobcat quarterbacks over Gunnar Talkington, over an Eastern Washington quarterback.
Okay. So you go back, man. Let's talk about your power rankings.
Oh yeah. I think I kept Sac State at 1 because I don't know. Montana State and Sac State both beat top 5 opponents at home in kind of ugly fashion. So I just kind of kept the rankings. I kept Sac State at number 1 because I had it number 1, but I did bump up Montana State to number 2. Then I was pretty impressed with Idaho. I put them at number 3. Then Weber State, and then Montana and Davis. So I was actually right in line with the rest of the group, except the tie at first. But yeah, that's where I fell. And then I think I don't remember what I put after 6. Like I said, I don't care. Bunch of bad
Buy or
football
sell,
teams.
Weber beats Montana.
I'll buy it. I think honestly, I do buy that. I think the
so,
Grizz are in trouble, especially if Lucas Johnson is out. I can't imagine he comes back. If he was out with a concussion, you don't usually come back the very next week. I don't think so. Chris Brown is a huge downgrade for the Grizz. Junior Bergen, don't know the extent of his injury. He went out too. Weber State's going to be at home. I like Weber in that one.
If they can snap the ball.
If they can find a long snapper, oh, man. But, yeah, I do think that. And I also think, who's the other one? Sac State and Idaho, and that's in Sacramento.
Yeah, I pick Sac on that one.
I think I like Idaho in that one. Sac's pass defense isn't very good, and that Giovanni McCoy guy can sling it around. I think that's
what I've been
strength
saying,
on weakness.
man.
Yeah, that's strength on weakness. I think that's why Idaho can win.
I saw someone on Bobcat Nation today say Sac State's defense is suspect. I'm like, I wonder if they've been listening to the R&R. Because literally I've said that the last 2 weeks. Yeah, somebody's going to be exposed this weekend. I like the fact that both Sac and Idaho play each other because that looks better for us trying to win the conference championship. One of those guys got to lose. I don't think they're going to lose though. I think Stingers will sting on.
Sting way up high.
Oh my God.
Raise those stingers to the sky.
Listener, this is a late episode.
We started late tonight.
Episode.
I'm loopy.
Yeah. So if we are lackadaisical on our presentation, it is just late and we don't apologize.
No,
so
it also feels really good coming off this win and not having to worry about a game this Saturday. I don't know. I'm like in a kind of just like I just did like a big job and now I can just kick back. So maybe a little bit more lackadaisical than normal on this one.
All right. Can we get into the stats now? Can we start talking Weber?
Yes, we can. I have every other tab page open that we need for this conversation except for this one. So just give me a second. Navigating. Weber State.
Did you make a little stats jingle like I've asked you to?
I just did it. That was a complete lie. I just made that up. And no, I haven't had a chance to do that. Too busy taking care of the family.
I had one job.
I have one job.
One job.
I wish I only had one job on this podcast. All right. Let's go through the stats in this game. The Bobcats win this game 43-38, and Weber State had 4 safeties.
That's all.
That's the only stat.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Thank you. See you next week. I had to say that.
Okay.
First thing I had to say there. Insane long snapper problems down there in Ogden, up here in Bozeman, I guess, from the Ogden squad. 25 first downs for the Bobcats to 19 for Weber State. Both teams were about equally bad on third down, 4 for 14 for the Wildcats, 4 for 13 for the Bobcats, 2 for 3, 2 for 4. Both teams pretty mediocre on fourth down as well. 487 yards of total offense for the Bobcats, 140 of it coming through the air and 347 on the ground. Woo! 338 yards of offense for the Wildcats, 151 of it coming through the air and just 187 on the ground. I mean, that's still a pretty good day in the office, but penalties, this is where things get real lopsided. Just 3 penalties for the previously, I believe, the most penalized team in the conference, just 3 penalties, and 11 penalties for, I believe, the least penalized team in the conference, the Bobcats, for 75 yards. Of course that happens. Why wouldn't that happen? 1 turnover apiece for each team. Time possession dominated by the Bobcats, 37 minutes and 45 seconds to just 22 minutes and 15 seconds for the Wildcats. So we're going to get a lot more into some quarter-by-quarter statistics because I think it makes for very interesting conversation, but that would be, here's just your general total team stats here at the end of the game.
All right, so some specific individual stats. Tommy Malott, Big Sky player
Touchdown,
of
Tommy.
the week. Woo!
He's back.
He accounted for 4 touchdowns. He went 15 for 23 for 140 in the passing game, 4 touchdowns. He had 1 interception on his first pass of the game. He rushed for 3 touchdowns. He ran the ball 32 times. Whether you like that or not, he ran it for 32 times for 273 yards against an offense against an elite defense in Weber that was averaging, only giving up 89 yards on average. That blew me away. Amazing. As the team wears the shirts, the guys that are the hogs on the line, they have a branded shirt now that says "Run the damn ball."
Yeah, I've seen that. It's pretty amazing. I love it. I want one.
Man. So nice job. Okay. Lane Summer only had 12 carries, 44 yards. He got hurt at the very end. We hope he's okay. Don't know his status quite yet. Crossing our fingers that he's back after the bye. RJ Fitzgerald, he only had one carry, throwing for 1 yard, but it was a touchdown.
1 for 1 for 1 with a long of 1.
Yeah. Snell had 3 catches for 36 yards and a touchdown. A nice ball from Tommy there in the corner. Alston had 1 catch for 26 yards. Willie P had 5 catches for 25 yards. My boy Marquis Johnson, I'm pumping this guy up. He is the splashiest of splashers right now in this guy's book. 7 carries or 7 touches on kickoffs for 171 yards, averaging 24.4 yards a kick return. That guy is number 2 in the Big Sky right now, behind the guy from Weber State that took it 100 yards on us. His name is Abraham Williams. And so yeah, Marquis Johnson, man, that guy. I'm just gonna ride that train. I'm gonna make his name known in Bobcat Nation. Let's talk about the Weber Wildcats. Bronson Barron, 14 of 30. He had 151 yards and 1 touchdown. I was looking at his stats comparatively today, throwing against the games he's played. We held him well below his averages. Everything else was like 250 to 270, 151 against us. I don't think he had a lot of time to actually throw the ball. I mean, they only had the ball for 22 minutes, like you said.
Yeah.
Anyways, good job, Bobcats, on that. Dante McMillan, and I didn't look this guy up. Do you know what year he is?
I can check real quick.
He's a real deal. I was super impressed with his size, shiftiness. Yeah, that guy's going to be a headache. I was just like, the whole time, every time I watch him, his stats didn't fly off the bat or off the page. 9 carries for 76 yards, but the way he moves, his size, his speed does. That guy's he's a real deal. Ted McPherson, their senior leader, had 5 catches for 69 yards. Probably could at least had double that if he would have held on to the ball once in a while. And then the other guy I was going to put in there is Hudson Shank. He had that return for 91 yards where I think there's probably at least a couple blocks in the back on that one. We missed 5 tackles at the point of attack. It was just ugly all around.
Yes.
Special teams.
And yeah, we'll talk about special teams because everywhere in this game, special teams was special for everybody.
Yeah.
Both teams. All right. Anything else on the stats that stuck out to you there?
Just another public announcement that we could sell that stats segment to anybody out there. Do you want to sponsor our stats segment? Get at us.
We'll do a special little jingle for you.
There you go.
All right. Let's. So I was thinking for this game, maybe we start a little bit about kind of a chronological, just kind of recap as we're going, how we're feeling, and then kind of give our overall thoughts at the end there. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. I mean, maybe we will. It deserves a lot of time, but I'm just looking at it like we're 34 minutes in, but whatever. So let's just go right to the beginning. Cats received the ball. What do you think of that very first drive? Then this is something that's going to frustrate me, and I noticed 2 times at least that a false start cost us in a big way. So I think it was second down. The Cats received the ball. We got a false start, or maybe it was third down. I don't know what it was, but it was a play that backed us up far enough that we had to throw on third down instead of run for a 2nd and 3. It was like, or 3rd and 3. It was like 3rd and 8. And then Tommy Lott stares down a wide receiver and throws an easy interception to Eddie Heckard. And then kudos Tommy Lott for chasing him down and saving a touchdown. But right off the bat, what were your thoughts right off the bat when the first thing that happens is Tommy Lott throws an interception on the third play of the game.
Man, you're setting me up. You know what my thoughts were.
Yeah.
It just
I want you to
just
speak
bad.
them
Like,
in. I want you to say. I can't speak either. Goodness.
no, like, let's be honest, Ryan. Like, during game day, who's the pessimist one? You are. You are the one
during the
who's
game.
always.
Yes.
Yeah. You will never. You never like text me when something good goes on.
Yes, I do.
If anything terrible happens, you're just like terrible.
No,
Absolutely.
that's just
terrible.
the case of anything in life. Negative things stick out to you more. Like I could say 20 positive things, but if I say 2 negative things, those are the things that'll stick out in your brain. I'm not saying that's the ratio.
I don't know if that's.
I'm not saying that's the ratio. I am pretty negative, but I do
Okay.
say good things. Damn it.
There's once in a while where you'll give me a, oh yeah, or a awesome, but most of the time it's like pathetic, terrible. Of course,
I used the word embarrassing a couple
of
times, I believe.
embarrassing. Yeah, embarrassing. There's your go-to as well.
It's a good one. One of my favorites.
I don't know. It seemed like a very Bobcat thing to do. I don't know how else to say that. If you know, you know. It was very Bobcat for Montana State to come into a big game and then throw a pick, almost a pick six on the first play when everything's been hyped up to the crescendo, and you're like, oh, that's what we got? Okay, thanks a lot. And thanks, Tommy, for saving the touchdown, but it was like, And then the thought creeped into my mind later on. We'll probably get to this. I was like, we could get blown out. Like, legit, that was a scenario I covered in my brain probably 2 hours before the game. I was like, oh,
yeah,
that was the first time I thought about that.
I actually want to back up real quick since you mentioned that. What did you think when you heard Sean Chambers was out?
I was really nervous and almost like mad, but like laughing mad. I'm like, of course he is, because everybody else is out. Like, of course he is. Who else is going to be out today?
It's comical almost at this point.
Exactly. I was like, yeah, why not? Just give me another 2 guys who are out too. You're like, oh,
Right.
Rylan Ort's still out? Of course he is. You know,
Cleveland Thomas
Lane
still
Summers
out.
going to get hurt in this game? Of course he is.
Yeah.
You're just like, at this point, you're just kind of ticked off, mad because of all the injuries.
Yeah. I mean, I was back and forth all week long, but in my head, the key to this game was going to be more physical, run up the gut type stuff. I was thinking Chambers needs to be involved in this pretty heavily. So when I heard Sean Chambers was out, I'm like, damn, well, I feel like this is a perfect storm for Weber State. Like everything just seemed to be like the stars just seemed to be lining up for Weber State to come away with a win on this one. So I was feeling pretty down in the dumps. And then of course, Tommy throws an interception right off the bat. I'm like, well, here we go. Like I wasn't in my embarrassing complete downward spiral yet, but I'm like, that's about right. Like you said.
Yeah, and then they proceeded to go, 24? Or how many points did they rattle off before we got anything? We scored a safety first.
No, yeah, it was so if, I don't know exactly how it went, but it was 3-2, and then I think it was 9-3 Bobcats. So
at one point it was 24-9.
Yeah, I think we scored the first touchdown though on a nice drive. Yeah. So
yes, and then the next play they returned a 100-yard.
Yeah, and they returned.
We had the lead for a brief moment,
like 8 seconds or whatever.
That was the worst part. So I had you texting me, I had Pete texting me, I had Mike texting me, I had my aunt texting me. Everybody was like, Tommy, Tommy just ran a 42-yard touchdown, and everybody's like going crazy. We were actually running the ball against Weber, which, we were not doing that last year. So that was new, and everybody's stoked in. They're like, yes, this is awesome. And then they're like, oh no. I was like, oh, of course. I'm sitting at my son's cross country game going like, this is the way the Bobcats do it. Like we can't have good things.
You weren't listening to the radio call, like with one earbud in or something?
Oh no. It's me during these big games too, man. I'm a nervous Nelly. And so I'm weird. Like if there was anybody watching a game with me, they'd be like, "How are you a fan?"
So you were kind of happy to
It's
have a distraction, basically.
a little bit, yeah. My wife said is I have ruined college football for her, and I kind of apologize. She doesn't listen to this podcast anymore because she's like, "All you do is podcast." I'm like, "Yeah, it's kind of true." So
What, twice a
that's
week?
how I live.
Twice a week for like 4 months out of the year.
Right,
Come on, Liv.
right? Come on, Liv. Yeah,
She didn't listen, so I can say that, right? Okay.
yeah.
So at this point, 9-3. This is, or then I guess, there's the touchdown, and I believe it might be the very next possession where the Bobcats end up stalling out and punting. I believe, and this is where I don't know exactly how this went, so that we'll be a little hazy on this. But at one point, the Bobcats were like 4th and 1, on their 40 or something like that. So getting down close, we were going to go for it, and then we had another damn false start, which caused a 4th and 6, and then we punted it. And I believe that punt was the one that was returned for a touchdown. So that is another instance of the false start literally costing us points. Because if we would have gone for it and didn't get it, that's not a touchdown for Weber State. The fact that we got backed up and had to punt it and then had just absolute terrible special teams coverage, terrible tackling, just awful. All of a sudden it's 17-9 before you even know what happened. Weber State, at the end of the first quarter, had 12 yards of offense, 48 seconds of time possession, and they were winning 17-9.
Such a weird stat, man.
They had zero
So
passing yards.
Thorny, false starts or procedure penalties is more concerned than special teams tackling.
Oh, man, that's actually pretty close. I would say because not every team's going to be able to have a guy who can take advantage of bad special teams tackling in that way, but false start is always going to hurt your offense.
So you're buying special teams, or what are you buying here?
False starts are a bigger concern. Whatever that makes it.
See, I'm a little bit different. Yeah, I'm buying special teams is a bigger concern at this point.
Yeah, I just don't think everyone has as good of dynamic return guys as Weber State. I don't think that's going to happen again necessarily. I don't know. False starts have been something that's kind of been nagging us all year.
No, it's not even about the return guy. It's about the tackling. It's about Montana State not being able to wrap up.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. We got a bye week.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I feel like we had this conversation 3-4 weeks ago. We had the same conversation, and then it was fixed. So
we had 7 false starts
UD
in this game, man. 7.
That's weird. Do you think that's a byproduct of starting 2 new guys? Because I don't think so. Rush Reimer had a couple.
Derek Snell had like 2
not a newbie
himself, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Taco Dowler had one. It was like just everybody. Wide receivers, running backs. I'm surprised Tommy Watt didn't get called for a false start.
False start on the quarterback.
It can happen.
Yeah, it can.
Usually when they're like, it's a run play where they start like leaning before the ball is snapped, which pretty much happens in every play. Like running backs and quarterbacks like start leaning before they should, and it should be a penalty, but no one ever calls it. But 7 false starts, man. And then we had an offsides on a kickoff too. We actually pinned them inside like their 20, and then we had a offsides, and they returned it up to like the 40. I was like, so frustrating.
Quick question before we get into this, into the heart of the game. Did you feel that this was a titanic struggle between the number 3 and number 5 team in the nation?
At some points, it felt like Idaho State was playing Northern Colorado. Now, I mean, there was a lot of the stuff in this game that looked like elite teams, but there's a lot of stuff in this game that looked like just some sloppy ass football.
Ah, man. I get lulled into the thought that Montana State should just play good in all facets. Like, we expect Montana State to be just blazing on defense, blazing on offense, have good special teams, and that rarely just all comes together.
No.
It really does.
I mean, that's the thing.
Think about Weber State.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to, go ahead, because I was just thinking about Weber State, and they are a disciplined team. You look at Coach Vegan and Coach Hill, What are they known for? Disciplined football. Tough, disciplined football. What did we see on Saturday? We saw tough football, but I don't know if we saw disciplined football.
We didn't see disciplined football. I mean, Weber State was fairly disciplined, I think, but I don't know. Their defense wasn't all that disciplined in terms of like, I don't know. They couldn't stop anything. They looked like they were biting on every single misdirection and play action that Bobcat sent at them. So if you're not necessarily penalty undisciplined, but undisciplined, staying in your gaps in your spot. So I could see that part. But I was going to say, like, I think we have to accept at this point, and this is a hard pill to swallow, that the Bobcat defense just isn't that good.
No. Here's some stats for you, Thorny. I've got some Bobcat defense stats, okay? We are number 6 in scoring defense, right in the middle. We allowed 26.9 points per game in the Big Sky. These are all Big Sky conference stats.
Big Sky only?
We're number 4. Yeah, Big Sky only. We're number 4 in total defense in the conference. That's a little higher than I thought we'd be. We have averaged 361 yards per game, or giving up 361 yards per game, which is, no, it's not. It's not. We're 5th in defense against the rush. We give up about 157 yards per game.
Not great.
And we're 4th against the pass. We give up about 204 yards per game.
That doesn't seem too bad.
No. So, like, out of 12 teams, we're pretty average. We're missing some elite players. I mean, you talk about Troy Anderson being able to wash out big time runs on the edge. That takes away a lot of that rushing stuff. Amandre Williams, Daniel Hardy being our defensive ends. And you talked about today, just before we got on here, that Montana State has a unique stat about holds.
Yeah. Bobcat opponents have only been called for holding twice against the Bobcats all year. And only one of those was on offense. That was a Northern Colorado game. There was an Elijah Dotson run where they got called for holding. And there was a kick return in the Eastern Washington game where Eastern Washington got called for holding on the return. That's it. Those are the only two. I looked up at every single game. Those are the only 2 holding calls the Bobcats opponents have had called against them against the Bobcats.
Not one against one of our defensive ends.
Not one. Like, Brody Grebe hasn't gotten a holding call once this year. Man gets like armbar tackled every single play.
That's so weird.
I mean, I would, if I had time in my life to like look at every single team to see who's got the least. I can't imagine anyone has less than one holding call against their defense than the Bobcats. It seems absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're moving on maybe from the first quarter here. Just some absolute craziness. 17-9. You're thinking like, all right, well, they're having some special team success, but we held them to that 3-and-out, or the 3 after they got the interception. The defense held, forced them to a field goal. I was feeling pretty good about that. Second quarter, the first thing Weber does is take a 6-play, 70-yard drive right off the bat, and all of a sudden it's 24-9. And this is where my meltdown begins, Ryan Foley. That's where I start to go to negative town. Absolutely. 24-9, giving up special teams plays left and right. Then they just march down the field. A pretty easy drive. 6 plays is all it took to go 70 yards. I'm like, well, because in my mind, like I said, when I heard Chambers was out, I don't know if I told you how I felt. I asked you how you felt. I was already like getting pretty negative that Chambers wasn't going to be playing. I'm like, well, there we go. I'd already kind of accepted in my mind that we're going to lose. And at 24-9, I was like, oh, all right. I don't know if we can come back from this. At this point, I'm still thinking Weber defense is going to be elite against the Bobcats, and we're not going to be able to come back from that. So I'm feeling pretty bad. Pretty bad that moment.
I'm looking back through your texts right now.
I do not get convinced.
Steered him down the whole way. Run, false start, run, Tommy, 3-and-out, bad. And bleep. I can't say that word on the podcast. So many false starts, costing us points, embarrassing. Game gonna get ugly real fast if we can't figure out how to tackle. That should do it. Good game for me. Not able to catch it all. This is where you're at that
This
point.
Is 24 to 9.
That should
That's
do
exactly
it.
24
You
to
called
9.
it right there.
That should do
That
it.
should do it. Good game for me, but not able to catch it all.
Thank
And
you
I
for old take
responded,
exposing
I
me.
kind
right
of
now.
thought there would be a chance we get blown out. Still lots of time.
Hey,
Then
you threw a little
get
slipper.
into the red zone. Get into the red zone. False start again, and then backed up.
There's a reason I don't post in the Bobcat Nation game day thread. Like, I'm no better than anyone else who gets all angry and all crazy in there. I just stop posting in there because of it. If I do it, I try and be measured when I do. It's only you who sees this true ugly side of my fandom. That's pretty upset.
Yeah, you were, man. You were leading that upset train down the tracks for sure.
My texts come off across way more angry than I actually am. I like to express myself through the text. I'm like venting, but it's not like I'm throwing shit around the house or anything. I mean, stuff around the house. Dang it! I gotta edit that.
Well, I'm glad I'm the guy that you can vent to, but at the same time, I know it's coming.
Well, the good news is things start turning around for the Bobcats pretty soon after this. So the second quarter stats, Wildcats only have 106 yards of total offense. I mean, that's pretty good. But they had 70 on that one drive right there, the touchdown drive. So that means they only managed 36 yards beyond that for the rest of the quarter. And the Bobcats rattle off 18 unanswered points, go for 123 yards, 6 for 10 throwing the ball. We rushed the ball. What do I got there? 60 yards right there. And this is kind of when Weber State's long snapping hilarity kicks off. I don't know exactly how many happened in what quarters. I don't have that data here, but I know at least 2 of them happened here in the second quarter. Maybe one happened in the first quarter. I don't remember. Gosh. But yeah, second quarter completely flipped the script after that 24-9 score. The Bobcats responded, and that was a huge kudos to Housewright and Tommy Millott and the whole offense for kind of getting back on track and shutting me up.
That Bobcat sees the momentum through the middle part of this game. Just the bookends, they had some trouble. This is where everybody was texting me like happy faces and wows and oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. And another safety. And I was like, what is going on? Crazy, man. You know, when I went back and watched the game, Montana State did see some momentum. It was funny too. Our buddy Mike, who listens, he texted me. He goes, "We are rolling." I was like, I knew that was a harbinger for something bad about to happen. And it started to, because when he said that, was, I know I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but that was at the end of the third quarter. And then some stuff started happening. Yeah.
Yeah, skipping a little
bit. So, Mike, I blame you, buddy. I blame you.
Yeah, this is about where I don't think I made it to halftime in terms of like being able to watch anymore on my ferry ride / car ride. And going into halftime, but feeling pretty good. I knew that. I was feeling real good about the comeback there. But, third quarter would only continue that. Anything else? Is there anything else you want to talk about in the first half? Any big plays?
Just the fact, non-granular, but just the fact that Montana State has experienced this experience. You can't understate that. Like, you start talking about the arc of a season. Montana State has played in big games now where they've been behind in a significant way and have come back. They know that feeling. That really leans into that idea that Coach Vegan and his players, Coach Brent No Panic Vegan, as we are starting to dub him. This is huge, Ryan. I mean, the casual listener will be like, oh yeah, whatever, we came back and it was good. But just knowing that you can come back. Look on the opposite side of the mountains. Look over to Missoula land. When the Grizzlies get punched back in the face, when they bring all their energy and somebody actually stands up and punches them back, they don't do well.
No.
It like derails them. For Montana State, they're like, yeah, okay, cool. We'll take that. Just watch us. We'll come back.
Yeah.
It's really impressive.
No, at no point did the Bobcats look like they panicked. I looked like I was panicked. Bobcats weren't panicked. And that's all that really matters.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about you and me, how we do.
Yeah, we're both roller coasters
right.
here. We just handle it differently. I vent text you. You just like straight like leave your house and just go walk around the block. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
We
I
all
do.
have our ways.
Start walking, man. I put on my running shoes and I start walking around the block. They're so weird.
Third quarter action begins here. I believe Weber State got the ball. I don't have like what exactly happened in chronological order here, but Bobcats continued to score points in this quarter. And I want to ask you a question here. What do you think of? Did you expect Montana State to come out and have so many empty sets, run the ball from empty sets? I saw that a lot. It was like Tommy Lott running, and there was nobody by him. Now they might audible a guy over at the last second, or they might have a guy running for a little pop pass or something after the ball was snapped. But a lot of times Tommy Lott was back there by himself, and he ran out of that set quite a bit as well. I don't know if I saw that coming.
I wasn't keying into it. The only thing I would say to that is Coach Vegan did talk about in his post-game press conference that Tommy Malott ran on at least 10 design passes.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking those were probably part of what you were seeing there.
Could be. It's hard to know sometimes if it was a designed run or not from Tommy Malott, but because sometimes he does take off pretty early.
Yeah.
But I thought that was pretty interesting game plan. It was working really well. I thought it was very creative what Housewright was doing, giving the ball to Marquis Johnson, Elijah Elliott, Lane Sumner, and just all the pulling guards and having Derek Snell in the backfield. I don't know, this third quarter might have been the one where, was it the second or the third quarter where we punted the ball and they botched it? And then we recovered it. Tommy Sullivan, our long snapper, who had like an amazing day, complete opposite of Weber State's poor long snapper, recovered it, and the very next play was a touchdown pass to Derek Snell. I can't remember if that was the second or third quarter.
I think that was in the second quarter.
But that was
right before halftime.
It was a very creative play call because they had Derek Snell lined up right next to Tommy Malott in the shotgun formation, and he ran a wheel route.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's your tight end. I loved it. I just loved the creativity, and we saw more of that in the third quarter as the Bobcats continue to score points. But Weber State started punching back here at the end of the third quarter.
So when Chambers was, when I learned about Chambers, I thought Derek Snell might be a guy that we turn to fulfill his role. I thought we could see Wildcat with Derek Snell back there.
Yeah. No, I thought I would actually see potentially Wildcat with him or handing the ball off to him because we had done that in the previous week, but I don't think he got any. Did he get a carry? I can't remember, but not much if he did. But yeah, that could have been something that I could have seen the Bobcats doing in lieu of Sean Chambers being out, but no, they pretty much went with Tommy and Lane Sumner in all the short packages and brought in Devin Slaughter as kind of that big fullback type guy. Best name for a fullback ever. Come on. For any position, really.
Right on,
come on. But yeah, this is a third quarter starts off with another safety, then a Tommy Malott 36-yard touchdown run, and then the RJ Fitzgerald 1-yard touchdown run. And that's probably when your buddy texted you, I imagine, we're rolling. Because it's 43-24. Fitzgerald just scored a touchdown. I mean, there's only 3 minutes and 14 seconds left in the third quarter. We're up 43-24. So we went from 24-9 to 43-24. That's a huge swing. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. And to tell me that this game came down to a fourth down stop with 20 seconds left. I mean, talk about being a Bobcat type of game. That's what I'm talking about, man, is when you have that momentum, that's probably a next step for the Bobcats is being able to just shut them down, shut anybody down with that kind of momentum. Yeah. And it all kind of started when we got the ball back. So Weber drove and responded. right? Start of the fourth quarter.
They scored with 30 seconds left in the third quarter, actually. A 21-yard touchdown pass to Ty McPherson.
And then
that was the fade to the
conversion.
corner of the end zone. That was a great catch by Ty McPherson, and pretty good coverage by James Campbell, but great throw, great catch. Not much you can do about that.
And then Dante McMillan hit the 2-point conversion, and then you're like, dang it.
11 points. You're like,
so,
well, as long as we score another touchdown, it's okay.
Momentum. Yeah. And then we responded. The thing that caught me was we drove all the way down, got into the red zone, and then on a third down call, we hit Elijah Elliott on a pitch out. And I think Rush Reimer didn't get his block. And they got him. He was like, the ref spotted the ball. So it would have been like where he went down, he would have needed 1 more yard to get the first down. The ref spotted the ball a yard back from that. So then we were in 4th and 2. And we gave it to RJ. And no, we didn't give it to RJ.
Sumner.
I think we gave it to Sumner.
Yeah, Sumner, I think.
And he got stopped on 4th and 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we would have converted that, game over.
Yes.
Game over. We would have been able to score. We responded on a nice drive. Tommy Mowat had some really awesome runs. We were just dominating them. We took their shot, took it on the chin, drove it all the way down, but we did not convert. And that, to me, was a sign on the wall saying, hold on, because all of a sudden I got really nervous after that. I was like, here they come. And, of course, they just drove right down the field and scored.
Yeah, there's
like
a couple
clockwork.
There's a couple plays you can pinpoint in this game that kind of felt like things shifted a little bit. There was in the second quarter, I believe, maybe the first quarter, where Weber State had a third down, and they, instead of running it, they did a nice little play action or something, and they threw a slant, and it went right through the receiver's hands. Like it probably would have been a touchdown, but that drop was huge, and Weber State punted, and then the Bobcats kind of kick-started the scoring. And on the other end of it, Bobcats couldn't quite convert a fourth down, and Weber State starts to make their comeback in a little bit in this one. I mean, they only scored 1 more touchdown here in the fourth quarter, but I think it may have been on the heels. I think they scored on that ensuing drive where we didn't convert on fourth down. They drove down the length of the field and scored a touchdown. And luckily, we were able to stop the. Although I almost would have preferred if we let them have the 2-point conversion, because they would have settled for a field goal. I think to go into overtime instead of like having to win. It was way more nerve wracking. Like they can't tie here; they have to win. It made it more nerve wracking as a fan when it was a 5-point lead.
I hadn't thought about that actually.
I would have rather them been okay with a field goal to tie in that situation. But man, crazy fourth quarter. I just want to read the stats here real quick. Bobcats really didn't do much of anything in this quarter. Time possession was dead even, but the Bobcats didn't pass the ball 1 time in the fourth quarter. So I don't know if we got too conservative there. We had 72 yards of offense, and they were all rushing yards. One of 3 for third downs. I mean, we kind of just stalled out. We only had 14 plays. Weber State had 29 plays in the fourth quarter. Yeah, it was a bad fourth quarter for the Bobcats, really.
Something that's kind of trending. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but I feel that I have some like problems with the Bobcats late in the game. When it comes down, when we have the lead, we seem to get very conservative, like choke conservative. Like we're just going to run the ball every single play. And I don't mind that because our running game is probably the best thing that's going for the Bobcats right now. So kudos to those guys. But at one point when everybody knows you're going to run it, sometimes just running a little hitch or a little out to get a first down, that's not a bad thing, you know. And I'm not saying throw the ball over the yard and like you let the clock stop, and you know when that's not what I'm saying. Is just get the yards, make the play, get the yards.
You got to pepper in a few pass plays here and there to just keep the defense honest. And my biggest problem is, I'm not sure it was the case in this game. I don't think it necessarily was, but a lot of times when the Bobcats go into that conservative mode, it's not even creative running either. It's just like hand the ball to Lane Sumner off the left side up the gut. Like we go away from the zone read stuff and just start doing like straight handoffs. And I was like, I hate it. It's conservative and it's bland at the same time. You can still run the ball and still be creative about it if you don't want to pass the ball.
Man, let's talk about the last drive in this fourth quarter.
Oh.
How many fourth and 10s did Bronson Barron connect on? Was it 3? Was it 2?
I think it was just 2.
He missed the third one because
yeah,
and it was a drop. I thought this game was over when we pinned him in. Like Bryce Layton had such a great punt, pinned him inside the 10-yard line. They had 90 plus yards to go in 2 minutes, and we had them backed up on fourth and 10. And Simeon Woodard released off of Ty McPherson. Ty McPherson found just a sliver of daylight, and Bronson Barron put it right on him. I was like, holy cow, holy cow. And that kind of leads me to a little bit of a gripe, our safety play, man. I don't want to call out names. I'm just going to say safety play in general. Like, we're not good back there.
Won't call out names.
Bad angles.
But it's a strong safety.
Both of them, man. Honestly, like, where is? I was thinking about this today. I was like, man, I would kill for like a Ryan Force back there, some guy who's just going to just like bludgeon you when you come across the middle. Quit talking the talk and play the game. Get out there, make some plays, because our safety play is just a lot to be desired right now.
Jeff Manning did save several touchdowns. Like a guy broke contain and then Manning would just come out of nowhere. And I mean, it was like 15 yards downfield, but he did make some big time tackles where he maybe should have been in position to make a better tackle in the first place. Couldn't tell you, but he did save a few. He did do quite a few of those plays. So I will give him a little bit of credit there. But yeah, the safety play has been kind of suspect all year, but I mean, they're also being put in bad positions because we can't seal the edge ever. Like, teams are just running straight at Ben Seymour at this point.
Yeah,
like I like Ben Seymour in pass rush, but he's having a hard time sealing the edges. I just don't think he's quite big enough for that, and teams know that, and our linebackers aren't Troy Anderson. They're not getting over there to help out enough anymore, and safeties, poor guys that are having to come up and make more tackles, and they're not doing a great job of it. It's like a perfect storm of breakdown on all three levels. Can't seal the edge. The linebackers aren't in position to make the play, and then it comes down to the safeties who also aren't making the play. And it's a problem right now, and I don't know if it's schematic, talent-wise. I think it's both. I just don't know what the mixture would be if you want to go on percentage-wise, but it's something that I think we're going to have to just kind of accept as that's kind of how the Bobcats operate right now.
Right,
it hasn't gotten any better.
No, you're right. And I can see this being like the eventual Achilles heel for us to accomplish what we really want to accomplish. So that's something, I don't know. Maybe it takes a turn. Maybe Ryland Ort does come back, or maybe we do a schematic adjustment and then it's something that's just fixed. I'm hoping, right? Fingers crossed over here. But I think this is a good conversation maybe to shelf right now and then maybe dive into maybe next week or later on this week. So
we have a good Golden Coolie question about it, and I think we will put a pin in that. Using Bethany Cordell's little phrase from the Zach Minder episode, kind of stuck with me. We have a decent amount of Golden Coolie questions, but let's shelve anything that's not related to the Weber State game necessarily. Something that's not time sensitive, we can talk about maybe next week in the bye week, if that sounds agreeable. Some good questions, though, from the game. The one that I see here, Brendan Henshaw. Well, I guess, first of all, are we done talking about the game before we get into too many Golden Coolie questions? I'm skipping around. I apologize. We're basically talking about the last drive of the Weber State game. Let's just finish that real quick. I was just nervous. I was pacing around. I couldn't do anything. I'm like, they're going to win this game. And like, they just kept making those plays. Like you said, 2 fourth down conversions. Bronson Barron looking like he can just hang in there and make the throws when the pressure's on. It's like, man,
Gamer.
I don't trust our defense to make a play right now. And honestly, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
There's a couple, like we had a nice sack. Callahan O'Reilly got to him, but it came down to the fact that they dropped. I saw in the official stats their third drop of the game. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but it sounds right. I thought they had more. But yeah, a pretty good play where, okay, we got pressure on Bronson Barron and we flushed him out. He made a throw on the run, and his guy should have caught it. Just straight up should have caught it, and he didn't, and the game's over. Now, they would have had like 25 seconds left and no timeouts, but it would have been a fresh set of downs to score a touchdown. Game was not over.
In the red zone.
In the red zone, yeah, like on the 13-yard line or something like that.
Yeah.
But they dropped it. And our defense didn't win that at the end.
No, it's one of the few times I can remember the defense not showing up.
No, they started that drive on the 10-yard line with minute 58 left, I believe, and they lost basically. I mean, they made clutch plays over and over. They had a running back squeak out of the backfield who caught the ball falling backwards, who would have easily picked up another 5, 10, 15 yards if he wouldn't have fallen over. I mean, the Bobcats had a lot of fortunate things happen in that, and honestly, the entire game. And I guess that's one question I wanted to ask you. Do you feel like the Bobcats got lucky in any way? Did the Bobcats deserve to win? I mean, if you believe in that kind of stuff, I mean, everyone makes mistakes. Games can go every game has like, but if this, but if that. How do you feel about that at the end of the day? Do you feel like, oh man, we got lucky on that one? Is that just kind of your gut feeling or not?
It's hard to say. I've been going back and forth on this. My sister said, she's like, I don't feel like we deserve to win this game. And I told her, well, somebody has to win it. I thought Montana State had just an amount of penalties that Weber State could have capitalized on as well. No one ever could foresee 4 safeties. But also at the same time, I think Montana State probably still scores most on all those if they weren't. We just had the mojo throughout the second quarter. We were able to run the ball. It's hard to say how the game plays out.
It's hard.
Without all those. So I do think Montana State deserved to win. I honestly, when I'm looking at this game a couple days past, and I think Montana State probably showed a little better than Weber. I thought, we were able to, our offense to me seems like something that's better than I thought it was.
Absolutely.
Weber State's defense is no joke. Absolutely no joke. And for us to push them around, especially with a patch-up offensive line, that really showed me something. That kind of opened my eyes to our offense. However, on the flip side, Bronson Barron, I was high on him, and I still am high on him. And there's some glaring weaknesses in our defense, setting the edge, setting contain, and safety play is really kind of something that concerns me. So I don't know if you put all that in a mix in a blender, and we have to pour something out. Does that pour into a Bobcat win or a Weber win? And I think maybe you're kind of splitting hairs, but Montana State, I think, deserved to win.
I think Montana State deserved to win, but I also think that they were also fortunate to win. I think those two things can be true at the same time. I won't say they're lucky, but there are definitely some breaks that could have gone Weber State's way that could have drastically changed the course of the game. But that's what happens, man. Like, you have to make plays. You still have to make plays. Like, Bobcats still scored those touchdowns. Weber State dropped those balls, but Montana State still capitalized on things. And Montana State's offense, I think, looked like the better offense of the two. I still think the Bobcats, deserved to win that game, and I feel good about the win, especially going into a bye week, because a lot of stuff I still think is correctable. I don't know if it'll ever get to the level that we're accustomed to seeing at Montana State, but I'm feeling good about it, man. Going into the bye week, I think the Bobcats deserve to win, and I'm ecstatic that we did, because it's a huge win that catapults us into first place in the Big Sky, I believe, because we played the most conference games because we have a late bye week. And what's not to like? Where you're sitting, coming off this big win against the number 5 team in the country, feeling good. I see multiple yawns over there from Ryan Foley.
Late, bro.
We did start late. I don't think there's. I guess the one question I ask, I guess we kind of answered it. Brendan Henshaw asked us, "Does the game get ugly for us if their long snapper figured out how to snap? Their special team blunders completely erased all of ours." I don't know. Like we still get the ball back in all those situations. Like maybe Taco Dowler houses one. Like it's hard to say, man. I'm sure that's completely demoralized Weber State offense, defense. I mean, that's got to be frustrating as just a guy on the sideline. Like, are you kidding me? He did it again. Like, but I don't think the game gets ugly. I don't know if I go that far.
Does the game switch when the refs call a block in the back on one of those returns,
That's
or
right.
a hold on Ben Seymour, or Kenneth Ivan,
or the Bobcats
or
don't commit
Grevey.
7 false starts.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a weird game. I hate when people say, one thing I'll just kind of end on is I hate the fact that people are like, I didn't learn anything about Montana State. I didn't learn anything about Weber State. I think that's bull. They're like, no team is stepping up. To me, when you look at this game, it was a clash between top 5 teams. Top 5 teams in a high pressure environment in cruddy weather, and it wasn't going to be perfect. I don't know what people are expecting, but it was what it was. Go look around FCS football. You're going to have some weird games. This was a weird game, but it's nothing out of the normal.
Yeah, it's just impressive the Bobcats keep winning, and that maybe it's different from week to week, but that's impressive to me. Different personnel, different game styles, different like the way the game progresses, but the results are the same every time. A Bobcat victory, and it's huge. The Bobcats know how to win, and they know how to win in different ways, and that's just going to be so valuable, I think, in the playoffs.
Yeah, knowing how to win is so important. So important. That's the thing that separates us from the Grizzlies right now in a lot of ways.
Yep. Andrew Schmidt, Grizz running back, spectacular on Twitter, always says, losing's easy. Bobcats ain't losing.
That's a good point. I never thought I'd give that guy credit, but all right.
The biggest Bobcat
there it is.
Twitter troll there is, but I do like that line. It's a good one.
Losing's easy. Yeah. All right.
All right. Well,
Thorny, I'm good to go, dude.
Yeah, you're fading. We have quite a few questions. I think that'll be actually make for good content. We can answer a whole bunch of Golden Coolie questions that aren't specific to the Weber State game. I was reading through most of them, so I think there'll be good content for the bye week. Man, thanks everyone for listening. Again, what a huge win. What a great time to be a Bobcat right now. 7-1 heading into the bye week. What else is there to say? Check us out on Twitter, RRCatcast. Find us on the web, rrcatcast.com. Shoot us an email. Oh gosh, I'm struggling here. rrcatcast@gmail.com. Thanks again to Manhattan Bank for being our awesome sponsor for the year. Really appreciate it. Foley, let's get out of here, man. Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.